Was this why, absurdly, at the conclusion of the experiment at La Chirera, the strains of O Little Town of Bethlehem had come echoing through my head? By late spring of 1972, I knew everything that I have just mentioned. Why did the chart point to the 22nd of December 1973, and why was there such a stream of coincidences pointing to that time? Had I known of the impending eclipse on some unconscious level? Had I known it would achieve totality over Bilim? Why did the dates important to my life line up with that date according to the chart I had learned to construct in the wake of the UFO encounter at La Chirera? I did not imagine that it was impossible that I had somehow known these things and manipulated my conscious self to imagine that it was discovering these things. But in the early spring of 1973, an event occurred which is the perfect proof that something larger than my unconscious, seemingly larger even than the total collective consciousness of the human race, was at work. This was the discovery of the comet Kohoutek, supposed to be the largest comet in human history, supposed to dwarf even Halley's Comet. "Brightest comet ever headed toward Earth" was the headline in the San Francisco Chronicle, and as I scanned the article, I actually let out a shout. The comet would make its nearest approach to the Sun on the 23rd of December. A non-periodic comet, unknown to anyone on Earth until early March of 1973, was hurtling toward a rendezvous with the Sun within 100 hours of the solstice and the eclipse over the Amazon. It was a large coincidence, if we define that as a coincidence that deeply impresses its observer. It is not diminished by the fact that Kohoutek really never lived up to expectations, for the expectations alone were to become a wave of fringe millenarianism and apocalyptic restlessness that would die only as the comet itself returned to the darkness out of which it had emerged. Did anything happen in Bilim on the day of the eclipse? I do not know. I was not there. But I do know that the compression of events that occurred around that date and the way in which the charts revealed in the UFO encounter predicted this was uncanny. It was not long after that December that I realized how to completely quantify the time graph, and was thus led to an understanding of the way that the cycles operate, so that I saw the immense difficulties involved in predicting a concrescence. That was my last attempt. Since then I have been content to understand the theory, but have abandoned serious efforts to apply it specifically to predicting the course of human events. I do not personally doubt that the charts can and do chart the course of future novelty, but years of working with them leads to abandonment of the distinction between past and future, and preference for a kind of whole system understanding that revels in the complete pattern with less stress on specific prediction. Was the above series of events the first intimation that I had ever had that something of importance was connected with a specific date in time and the city of Bilim? Strangely, no, it was not. In the spring of 1970, I was in Taipei, Taiwan, adjusting to city life after a long butterfly-connecting ramble through the outback of Indonesia. I was killing time awaiting a traveling companion who I had last seen in Bali several months before. I had a very peculiar dream, which occurred, though I did not know it, on the very day that my father and Dennis were told that my mother was dying of cancer. That was something I would not learn until nearly a week later. My journal records the following dream, 24 May 1970. X and I were walking up a gentle grassy slope. Below us, on all sides, the valleys were filled with scudding white clouds, tops brilliantly reflecting the sun back into the depthless azure. Ahead of us, The steeply rolling hills ascended many miles away, as I remarked, into the main range of the Rockies. We were, in dream geography, somewhere in western Colorado, where I was born and lived until I was 16. As we continued upward, Herr B., an Indonesian acquaintance, came to meet us wearing white tennis shorts and drew our attention to several small meteorological balloons whose dangling nylon cords had fouled in nearby wind-bent trees, and to our left, upon a crest, deeply dimpled, blazing white, and perhaps 30 feet high, was a large balloon, perhaps 3/4 filled with gas. The ropes enclosing the gas bag cut deeply into it, sectioning it as though it were a great bleached orange. As we gazed, Herr B. depressed a lever that had appeared from somewhere, and the apparatus rose simultaneously with my query, would not the wind whipping over the hill cause it to falter? Its white bulk rushed over us, perhaps only 20 feet above our heads, and then, passing higher, it met the wind and the fate I had anticipated. Turning on its side, it gently came to earth. We ran toward it, and other people, the impression was of children, appeared from the opposite direction, also running toward the rippling white of the now deflated machine. Amid our laughing examination of the balloon, we were invited into B's house, now visible as a sprawling ranch-style house nearby, a house not unlike the house in which I spent my childhood. As we entered the house, I paused to examine a large map of the Amazon Delta on the wall, published, the legend informed me, to commemorate a conference of a French archaeological society which convened on a small island there in 1948. When I rejoined X, she informed me that the children of B had told her that one of the densest rainforests in the world was nearby. I, familiar as only a native can be with Colorado geography, was incredulous. I returned to the bookcase under the map, and taking out a large atlas, sought the rainfall and forest map of Colorado, opening instead upon Assam, not without first rejecting a topological rendering of Bengal. I heard myself say that Shalimar was the logical jumping-off place. Then all faded. Chapter 17. Say, what does it mean? A world construct is a way of seeing. A way of seeing is a set of concepts which, when they exist in one's mind, reconstruct all of one's inputs to make it different. To assimilate the theory that was forced upon us is to see the world differently. My approach has been to grant the possibility that the theory is true, since it hasn't been disproven. It may be possible to disprove it. If it is not, then I must believe it.